What time is it? Summertime? Party time? Time of our lives? Nope, none of that, thank you very much. This is not a High School Musical 2 video, it's adventure time. Come on, grab your friends.
We'll go to very distant lands. We'll take the dog and then the kill.
And the time is now for us to discuss the idea of trans themes in that show. You're probably wondering, did I really put into the script? And the answer is yes. Now, I'm sure that we all know here that there are no explicit, defined, categorized, canonized, blessed by the Vatican trans people within Adventure Time. I mean, damn, look how hard they had to fight to get a queer couple in the show at all with Marceline and Bubblegum, so what we are mostly doing here is trans interpolation, trans guesswork, and a bit of trans audience interpretation. The issue with that is that there are apparently a lot of directions to go with that in this show. There are many avenues that people like to consider as potential transgender characters or trans-adjacent characters who seem to speak to those people. From BMO to Tiffany to Turtle Princess to TV to Bronwyn to, well, let's face it, to every character in the show. My people are busy adopting anyone who doesn't explicitly say that they are cisgender into the umbrella. But I decided on talking about a character and episode that most speaks to transgender allegory and theming in my opinion, which is that of Princess Cookie.
He's only trying to be what following Howard's dreams make you want to be, man.
Oh, also to bring people up to speed on this show if you don't know, and if so, I'm very sorry for waiting this long to give you the actual intro of what the hell's going on here. Adventure Time is a kids show about a boy named Finn and his best friend dog named Jake, who go on adventures through the post-apocalyptic land of Ooh, and interact with a bunch of bizarre and wacky characters who often embody a bunch of very varied backgrounds.
Come on, fool! Come on, get spanked.
A lot of random items given sentience by the nuclear war vibes here. It's like that SpongeBob fan theory, but if it was real. So it's in that setting that we come time to discuss the trans nature of a sentient cookie who desires to be a princess despite being a male cookie. You see the starting line there, I feel, for the trans interpretation at least. Regardless, our episode of note begins with... well, it begins with what I can only describe as a sweet good-based hostage situation. A hostage situation which reveals a bunch of interesting things. Namely, that the kingdom has candy helicopters and cops with candy guns, something which really makes you wonder a couple of things if you're perhaps like me and you see any piece of world building and immediately stretch that out into every other possible interpretation and ramification of it that it could have. Does the Candy Kingdom deal with issues of police brutality?
There they are! Those guys wanted to commit crimes! No, we...
Are there similar problems in regards to racial, or should I say racial? Previous episodes have made it clear that there is definitely some discrimination that exists in this world that mimics what we know in ours, but the exact line of it is perhaps a tiny bit more vague than just purely racial ideology like we know. But regardless, what is the prison situation like? Is it an economic complex like in the USA that utilizes prisoners for free labor and sees criminal recidivism as an advantageous thing to maintain what is effectively the world's largest open-air slave labor population?
We stand together against your tyranny.
Wait, hang on. Why am I saying regardless and going on to that point? The regardless should really be used for the actual episode itself, not my spinning off tangent ramblings. But I will do my due diligence here and say that from the minor amount of research that I allowed myself into the police situation in the Candy Kingdom, they absolutely are used by the tyrannical leader Princess Bubblegum to ensure the subservience of the people that she herself literally created. I mean, the banana guards were bad enough, but the gumball guards, the elite force that she created to replace them and that she ended up dismantling because they were too ruthless, that was pretty messed up.
Our righteous swords cut a swath through the chaos.
The entire Candy Kingdom is a dystopian eternal monarchy ruled by a monster who desires total surveillance and control over the chaos that she created herself, and the fact that she is in Lesbians with a vampire does not necessarily alleviate my desire to see her removed from power and for the citizens of the Candy Kingdom to perhaps rise up and fight back against the God Monarch. It lessens it a little bit, but it doesn't remove it. And I know what you're saying, she does get removed from power by the King of Oo, or the Princess of Oo as he gets called in what we will get to later on during this video, but then she gets put right back in power when the Candy people rebel against the power-hungry monarch that they elected to replace the other power-hungry monarch.
And even being legal? I mean, I made everyone.
I mean, she's literally tracking all the people.
Oh, jeez. Let them all go, Banana Guard number 3.
Anyway, back on episode, there is a hostage situation, and this cookie has taken a bunch of people hostage because he wants to get that crown, and he refuses to hear any other alternative suggestions, such as a cowboy hat. Now, we need to remember that everyone here who isn't Jake and Finn is ultimately made by Princess Bubblegum and is given the flaws that they are given somewhat by her designs, which raises a fair few questions about the power dynamics of this situation and who is truly to blame for this cookie feeling the way that they feel. I mean, there is basically what to them is a literal god standing right over there who is kind of responsible for who they are. But we can get lost in the weeds on that in a future paragraph. For now, Princess Bubblegum refuses to dive into the reasons why this cookie wants her crown, just calling him crazy for no reason, and then decides to send in the banana guards to mop everything up.
He's left me no choice. I'm sending in the Banana Guards.
You sort of see what I mean here. Finn and Jake stop Princess Bubblegum by offering to go in there and resolve this themselves without mass bloody violence on all sides, and so she gives them a time frame to do that in. A time frame which exists for no reason other than, I guess, she wants to quickly kill all these people that she made and get on with her day.
If you guys aren't out of there by 4, I'm sending in the guards.
This is a really dark kids series. Jake and Finn get into the gas station with the cookie, disguised as a milkman and his shadow, don't ask questions, and they proceed to learn that the cookie has a bunch of accomplices, namely all the chips that are in his body.
Chippler's on his way. You got that, Chippler?
Affirmative.
That raises another few questions there about exactly what the relation between those might actually be. Like, is it a parent thing? Is it a parasite thing? Is it a cohabiting thing? What's the connection between a cookie and the chocolate chips inside the cookie if all of them are sentient? Jake goes to distract the cookie by offering him some milk, and then complains about the princess to try and get close and find out why the cookie wants the crown so badly and hates the princess. We then get a little bit of a hint towards something when Jake complains about how he was forced to be a milkman by the princess despite wanting to be a mailman, which the cookie offers condolences on.
But the princess, she made me be a milkman anyway.
Boy, I hear you, brother.
Perhaps relating to some way that the cookie wants to be something other than what they are, than what the god that created them has kind of forced them to be, and you sort of see the trans element here. We then get the cookie's backstory, learning that Cookie was an orphan, and that everyone at the orphanage was super depressed and unable to do anything but lie around in filth.
No, we're too depressed.
Things went on like that for a while.
Jesus Christ, until one day the princess showed up and changed the attitude in the place by reading stories to the kids and getting them all energized. Upon seeing this, Cookie realized something about themselves, unlocked something deep within, that they wanted to be like her too, that they wanted to be a princess. Something that they told her when she said that they could be anything that their sweetheart wanted to be.
I want to be a princess like you.
However, upon telling Princess Bubblegum that desire as a child, she laughed a little laugh at them, like what they expressed was silly or foolish, or just some child shit that couldn't really actually be achieved, and seeing that happen broke Cookie's heart, and made them feel terrible inside. All of which led them to where they are now, crying as they tell their story to a dog spy for the person who forced them back into the closet.
Holy schmow, man. That's terrible. That's really terrible.
You see where I'm going with this, right? I'll get more into that in the conclusion, don't worry. Jake feels horrible upon hearing this story, and seeing the way that Cookie has broken down emotionally, and attempts to soothe things by arguing that perhaps the princess just didn't know how much that meant to Cookie, that she just wasn't aware how deeply felt this desire to be a princess was, which for a lot of obvious reasons doesn't quite work. I mean, this Cookie has internalized that moment and the feelings from it for years and years, has clearly constantly thought about the downtroddenness of that instance, and how they felt like their ability to choose who they were was taken away from them through that mockery.
It really messed me up.
I wonder if any trans people might be able to relate to that, or connect to something there in their own childhood. I bet I can think of a few. I mean, shit, I had a bunch of those with people when I expressed anything that was considered to be from a different gender, or tried to explore things outside the binary. I remember getting heavily mocked in primary school for just reading a book that was designed for women, so I've got to imagine that I ain't alone in that one. It really does force you back into yourself, and create tons of mental health issues down the line. And to hear the princess who caused this so casually dismiss the Cookie earlier on as just crazy speaks a lot to some really fucked up bigotry on her side.
What's his beef?
I don't know, guys. He's crazy.
She refuses to entertain further notions about why this Cookie is acting the way that they do, refuses to see causes for the problems in her own people, and instead just resorts to police brutality against the trans allegory in question. And that just got a hell of a lot worse now that I've said it out loud like that. I mean, fuck me, how many trans people fall into that category, right? How many trans people have faced something similar? Have found themselves fucked up in a bunch of ways by a system and country that hate them, only for the results of that fuck-uppage to be dismissed as just mental illness and crazy, with no care for reasoning of it, and ultimately leading to police violence against that trans person. Adventure Time is really, in my interpretation here, exploring a darker metaphorical topic than most police shows that I've seen which cover stuff like this. And it's for kids. That's actually probably a good thing, really. It presents themes that are important to process, but through a silly and extended lens to the degree that it's not immediately traumatic and is disarming in its own way. It is important for children to understand some of these themes and to see them when they're kids.
But I've lived through something like this once before, and...
Cookie has a breakdown as they ramp themselves up emotionally here, freaking out over all their chips going missing and not responding, as well as getting mad at the princess for hoarding all the princessing for herself. Jake attempts once more to work the Cookie down, not by denying them the ability to be a princess, but by suggesting that they don't need Bubblegum's princess crown, that they can make their own and do the princess thing their own way, create a kingdom that allows people to be what they want to be, rather than forcing them into things like Bubblegum's authoritarian dystopian hellscape.
I can be the mailman, and you can be the princess.
Jake then calls the Cookie princess because our boy here is affirming as fuck and a really good person. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Jake is a trans motherfucking ally, and someone better make a meme image about that. I'm not gonna do it because I don't have social medias anymore, but someone who is on the social medias should get on that and make it, and then, I don't know, tell me about it in the comments. And then Jake goes to talk to Princess Bubblegum about Princess Cookie, as we will be calling them from this point forward, because in this household, and by household I mean YouTube channel, we respect people's identities, okay?
Just sit tight, princess. I'll get us out of here.
The pronoun part is a little more complicated in this allegory, because being called a princess doesn't necessarily equate to female gender pronouns, especially in Adventure Time, something that I will discuss later, but from this point on, it is Princess Cookie, alright? When Jake tells Bubblegum that all she needs to do is let Princess Cookie have a horse to escape on, she thinks it's some clever trick to allow Jake and Finn to hunt down the princess and then put him into the dungeon.
Right. And then you and Finn hunt him down and put him in the dungeon.
Which it isn't at all, and really showcases all those negative things that I said about the character of Princess Bubblegum, and how she well and truly does represent the uncaring and cruel system that we all must live in, and that by God could do with some serious changes real fucking soon. Jake chooses to betray Princess Bubblegum and her plan to help Princess Cookie, because he's a good fucking guy, telling him that the horse he is offered is a trap horse, and then transforming into his ride and getting Princess Cookie out of there. Because Bubblegum refused to back down and declared that Princess Cookie is a menace that needs to be dealt with. Like he's some kind of threat to the system.
In my dungeon for his life.
Jake and Finn have a confrontation while they're all running away, with Finn arguing that Princess Cookie is a criminal, and Jake defending him, saying that he's not a bad guy and was just dealt a bad hand instead, and that he needs support rather than being, thrown in a jail cell forever. Finn refuses to see that though, and so Jake pushes him off. And yeah, make those Finn memes too. This dude is a goddamn bigot, and an anti-trans activist who supports the evil system that keeps our community down and out, that refuses to allow us to be who we want to be, or to dream about our lives. I'm actually sure that one's gonna upset all the Finn is actually trans stans, isn't it? Well, you can't please everyone, and this episode has made me take a super hard stand on Princess Cookie's side, so you're either with the Princess Cookie platform, or like Finn, this is the time to get the fuck off the dog's back.
Gens?
However, as they approach a gorge, Princess Cookie stops Jake as he realizes that they have no chance of getting away, that there is no hope of escape from the Candy Kingdom. We then get a real sad moment, where Princess Cookie declares that he is never going to be a princess, that it's just not going to happen, but that for a brief second there, it really felt like he was one, that his dream was a reality and possible. In this brief moment of euphoria over feeling that identity for the first time in his life, Princess Cookie decides that rather than going back and being forced to live as something that he doesn't want to be, that he would rather die, and so he leaps backwards into the gorge and breaks into pieces.
Princess!
Holy shit, this trans allegory got pretty fucking real for a second. Unfortunately for Princess Cookie, this doesn't kill him. It just leaves him in a bunch of pieces. And then we see him later on, at a mental asylum being visited by Jake, dressed as a mailman. Jake refers to him as the princess that Cookie is, and then proceeds to give him a crown ostensibly from the Grass Kingdom, making him the kinda unofficial princess of that place. All the people in the mental hospital follow Jake's lead and bow to this monarch, fulfilling his desire of being who he feels like he is, if only in that place. Also, for some fucking reason, Princess Bubblegum and Finn are watching from the door and nodding their heads along like this was all part of a big thing in their plan, or they were not, massively responsible for fucking up this poor Princess Cookie's life. And ain't that sort of a fucking commentary on how when we receive even the tiniest bit of positivity, it will be used as a goddamn PR moment for the people who ostensibly support us only tangentially, and who actually in the long term put us in hell in the first place. Regardless, this is a truly bittersweet moment, because despite the euphoria of it, despite the fact that Princess Cookie gets what he wants, he is still facing the same oppression from the outside in many ways. And he is in a mental hospital. So it's not exactly like the state supports his identity fully.
Your Highness! Jake!
And the character remains there for much of Adventure Time's run. Us seeing him in the background during Season 6 Episode 20, Jake the Brick, before we finally see Princess Cookie out in the open in the last moments of the show during the Come Along With Me song, enjoying an outdoors concert while still wearing that crown. The Cookie won! He got to be a princess and get out of the mental hospital he was forcibly put in. It might have taken a lot of pain and time, but Princess Cookie is who he was always meant to be, and that is a win, despite the bittersweet ending of the main episode featuring him. Now, let's talk shop. Let's talk trans allegory, and let's talk why this episode speaks to us so much and what it means ultimately. I've done a little bit of that already throughout this analysis, but it's always important to collate your ideas at the end and present some kind of nice final statement for people to walk home with. Or at least that's what I enjoy from videos, so I'm going to do it. The first thing I want to say is that there are a few layers here when it comes to even considering this as a trans episode. The first layer is that when you initially look at it and go, well, there is a male-coded Cookie who wants to be a princess and is inspired to it by a female character, that's kind of a trans thing, pretty much.
Everything was better with her around, and something inside me changed that day too.
But then you go down to the second layer and hit the setting and canon of the show, which effectively makes it clear that the reason why this Cookie saw what Princess Bubblegum was doing and connected with that identity as wanting to be a princess is because there is frankly no other terminology available to them. Their entire society has been and consistently is defined by a princess, and I don't even think these people know of the idea of a prince.
King of Ooh is our new princess.
So, in that case, of course the Cookie is going to want to be Princess Cookie. There wasn't really a choice there, and that doesn't make it a trans thing necessarily. But then we go to the third layer down below that, and we see that despite all those facets and facts, the core story, the core reasoning, and the core logic presented here is one that is synonymous and interweaved with the stories that trans people discuss and feel. That what we are getting represented here is, regardless of everything else, one that is analogous to the trans experience. And so, in that case, it's right back round to being a trans thing again. Princess Cookie sees an identity that they want to be, feels a certain way about themselves that connects with a deep-seated truth and that gives them euphoria to feel, and then deals with a bunch of bullshit from external forces trying to make sure that they don't obtain the ability to identify as who they are, till eventually they're forced into a mental hospital for their attempted suicide.
I glubbed up!
Despite that, there is one person who has faith in them and believes in them after hearing their story. And so with the help of Jake, they are still able to realize who they are and get the recognition from other people about that, of their true life as Princess Cookie. While it might still seem sad and negative, in truth, this is a positive portrayal. Not least because by the end Princess Cookie wins and is able to live as who he is in the outside world, but predominantly because the entire story and the resolutions to it put us in the audience on the side of Princess Cookie.
No, man, Princess Cookie's a good guy. He just got dealt a bad hand.
It gives us a view of things in a way that humanizes their struggle and makes us want them to be able to succeed in who they are. And that's a good sign. It's a good way of connecting the audience in a method that breaks down their bigotries and innate perspectives on things by pushing them to see that from a different side in a subtle and casual manner. That building of bridges and mental infrastructure to let people have the introspection needed to come round to seeing trans people and trans life and the trans community in a way that isn't coloured by negativity and derision and mockery is an important step, even in an allegorical side work like this. And these kind of stories that work with ideas adjacent to our stories do go a long way in that fight. They do create the ideas of people being able to accept trans stuff because they've seen things like this, that deal with things like what we deal with. And so I want you to go away from this with the knowledge that while Adventure Time might never have had an explicit trans episode, this one that I have selected is still a good example of how you can succeed in doing something trans without going the direct trans route in media representation.
Is the princess?
And as we've covered, there are plenty of other trans stories that people feel connections to in this series. Some perhaps a little more tenuous than others, but ultimately it's all a big part of what we need to be able to see if we're going to understand the entirety of how the trans community exists and is connected to film and TV. A big part of that being how we connect to things that aren't necessarily transgender and how those influence us or influence people into seeing us in a different light. And that's my conclusion, and that's the episode.
Do so as we please.
If you liked what I said here, or found me to be educational, or at least just found me to be substantial background noise while you do whatever the hell you're doing, then that's great. It's exactly what I aim for, and so achieving that is me achieving everything I want with this channel. If you really like what I do, the best way to show that is by going to my Patreon or my Ko-Fi and subscribing there. The money from that goes a long way to helping to keep this channel running, and those in the $5 up category should be scrolling past the screen right now. All of it pays for my bills like power, rent, food, internet, and cat, and the cat is certainly needing some bill paying right now because he's got urine blockage issues, which let me tell you, is a goddamn fucking nightmare. But with all of your help, I'm able to keep doing my life, and also doing my life enough that I'm able to actually make these videos without having to constantly be worried about money or having to search for a job in the, let's be real here, shit New Zealand job economy. It's pretty bad. We're in the middle of a nasty depression right now and there are not careers going around like candy. Unlike the Candy Kingdom, where presumably there's lots of candy jobs. But anyway, a huge thanks to everyone who does subscribe to my Patreon or does give to Ko-Fi. You are the people who keep this channel running and who also inspire me with the fact that people like what I do so much that they're willing to pay to see more of it. Which is, for a lot of people who create content, a pretty huge deal. Like, it really motivates you into thinking about how this is having some kind of good impact. And I do hope that everything that I make has a good impact on somebody, or at least goes some way to giving people some ideas about trans representation in media. My list of things that I'm digging into grows shorter every week and every month, and eventually I am going to run out of things to say about this. And when that time comes, I'll make my big, giant trans video, and then I'll, I guess, find something else to make videos about. Or maybe I'll just quit and go do something else with my life. It's hard to say exactly what's going to happen there, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now, and I'm really grateful to all the people who are enjoying what I'm doing as well. You all make this channel what it is, and I am so deeply grateful for that. Anyways, with all of that said, A huge thanks to the people that support my Patreon once more. A big thanks as well to everyone who just watches these videos and everyone who comments, subscribes, shares with other people, clicks on my other videos to give YouTube a hint that people like seeing what I'm making and will keep spending their time on it, which YouTube apparently really gives a huge fuck about. And also, a huge thanks to just anyone who happened to be passing by and made it this far. I hope that you all have a great day.